Hello everybody, Raven Knight here, and it is my pleasure and honor to welcome all of you to Year 9, Season 4, Conquest. With this season, we've gotten a lot of things we've been waiting for a long time. A Wulin dedicated season, the first ever Wulin Dominion map, which is gorgeous by the way, and Tiandi's first hero skin, Prince Yi. And I'll be real guys, we've waited way too long for this. It feels like a crime that Tiandi hasn't gotten a hero skin before now. And I know that for some people the design is a bit of an acquired taste, but we are not here to talk about the design of the hero skin. We're here to talk about the lore. That's right, guys. Every time a new hero skin is released, as you know, there's always a short story that goes along with it. Ubisoft writes us a short story to go along with it, and I always read it to you guys. If you guys would like to hear me read it to you, take a look in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. You will find a link to a video where I read to you guys the lore of the new hero skin. Or if you'd rather just read it for yourself, I'll leave a link to the short story in the description down below. Some people like to tell me that they think I did a good job with this lore, as if I'm the one who wrote it. I want to specify, I'm not the one writing these short stories. Whenever I do a hero skin video like this, I'm not writing the short story. I am just reading it to you guys and then critiquing it, which is what this video is all about. So without any further ado, let's talk about the hero lore for Prince Yi and get an idea of what's good and what's bad about it. So let's go ahead and address the big elephant in the room. Many of you are probably already aware of this, especially if you're familiar with the Three Kingdoms era of Chinese history or the Romance of the Three Kingdoms books. But you probably could already tell that Prince Yi is heavily based on Liu Bei, one of the emperors of the Three Kingdoms period, who was romanticized in the Romance of the Three Kingdoms. Now, if you're not familiar with who that is, who the heck is Liu Bei? I will probably do a whole video talking about Liu Bei, but for now, let's just focus on the brief synopsis. Liu Bei was the emperor of Shuhan, the Shuhan kingdom that existed during the Three Kingdoms period, one of the three major provinces that was going on at the time, against his rivals Cao Cao and Sun Quan. And he is famous for being a very wise, if smaller, leader who was made stronger by his fraternal relationship with his sworn brothers Zhang Fei and Guan Yu being the more popular of the two. However, both were very important in helping Liu Bei rise to power. And as we can see in the lore, it's very clear that Prince Yi has his own fraternal brotherhood with the two characters Xuan and Jin. Now, I do not know which one are supposed to be which in terms of who's representing who, because they don't exactly act the way they're represented in the Three Kingdoms, but if I had to guess, I'd say Xuan is meant to be Zhang Fei because he's the one who acts a little bit more reckless and a little bit more boastful, saying things like, "We are invincible!" That sounds more like Zhang Fei's style. And then Jin is more like Guan Yu because he's more direct and stern and a little bit more cold. However, the problem is, what he does in the story doesn't make a lot of sense. In the story, we read that Jin pulled ahead of his brothers to win the horse race and lied to Xuan, saying, "Oh, I didn't know you fell off," kind of acting like he believes the ends justify the means, and that doesn't sound like the way Guan Yu is portrayed, but I digress. They don't have to be exactly the same. That's not a criticism. That's just me saying I'm not sure who was meant to be who. Was Xuan supposed to be Zhang Fei or Guan Yu? Was Jin supposed to be Zhang Fei or Guan Yu? I'm not entirely sure, but it does not matter. It's not a one-to-one. The other thing I'll say is I really like the peach tree references that they made in the first part. That was really neat because in Romance of the Three Kingdoms, according to legend, Liu Bei swore an oath of brotherhood with Zhang Fei and Guan Yu under a peach tree, which is a pretty popular way for people to talk about fraternity and, you know, not necessarily blood bonds, but brotherhood bonds, you know, swearing oaths to each other. It's really cool. So, but with all that out of the way, with all that elephant addressed, now let's talk about the story. So the story opens in part 1. We see a horse race between the three brothers. We see that Xuan is super excited. He's like, haha, I'm going to beat you guys. I'm invincible. I'm going to win. But it turns out he's a little bit reckless and not thinking things through. And it looks like Prince Yi and Jin are going to overtake him. But midway through the race, suddenly Xuan falls off his horse. Yi worries about him and gets off his horse to go help him. Jin, meanwhile, goes and wins the race and comes back and pretends, "Oh, I didn't know you fell off, man. I didn't see you fall off your horse. I'm so sorry, dude. I didn't know. I couldn't tell." And Yi is very upset about this. How come Xuan believes Jin and forgives him, and why is Jin lying and acting like he didn't notice and still won at the expense of his brother? And he wants to tell them off, but then Jin gives him a look that basically says, "Yes, and? Got something to say to me?" But Yi backs down and goes, "No, you're right. I'm glad you won. It's sad that you didn't see Xuan fall, but, you know, it's okay, you know? And after all, if one of us wins, we all win." And then Swan goes, dude, you got to be better at like speeches, man, because that was pretty weak. And then Jin just kind of gives him a look like, yeah, you and I almost got into a fight here, brother. You and I almost came at it. And that made me think, okay, there's going to be some brotherly animosity here. Okay. Then we get into part 2. Years ahead now, all three are now leaders of military forces, and they're coming to a port town to reinforce the Wu Lin who are fighting the Mongols there. But while in the midst of fighting, they have a reinforcement team show up, a big old boat full of Wu Lin, and they're like, yeah, reinforcements, only to find out that it is not actually reinforcements that have shown up, but General Zhe. And if you don't remember who General Zhe is, he is the purple snake. He is the one who basically sold out to the Hatun. And the minute they get off the ship, they do exactly what you expect. General Zhe and his soldiers fall upon Prince Yi's forces and start butchering them, start killing them. Prince Yi is horrified, and he's like, guys, we need to fall back right now. But before he can tell them all to fall back, Jin, his brother, is killed in action, killed by a Shaolin. Swan is overwhelmed with grief. He stumbles over himself in horror. And again, this is a good callback, and we'll talk about that later. But he's weeping. He's so upset. He's like, how could he die? What's happening to the Wu Lin? We're killing each other. This shouldn't be what's going on with us. And then he gets killed too by a Zhan Hu. And as he's dying, he tells Prince Yi, you were right. You were right, brother. You were right. If one of us wins, we all win. You have to teach them that. You have to show them that. And then Prince Yi, calling upon his grief and anger and frustration, shouts to his comrades, we need to flee. We need to leave now. Don't worry. We remember valor. We remember what we stand for. We remember what it is to be Wu Lin. We will not lose this war. We have to abandon this place. We have to abandon this fight. But don't worry, we will win against these traitors. And General Zhe watches them flee and basically goes, I can't wait to see you try. Building up to the idea that they will have conflict later. And that will probably lead into an event later in the season. Now, let's talk about the good and the bad of this story. Let's start with the good, because there's plenty of good to say. The story does an excellent job of ironic callbacks. The story does some excellent callbacks. Like, for example, a good example, the first part opens with Swan riding his horse saying, I'm invincible! I'm invincible! And how does the second part start? With him going, we are invincible! So we have a good callback to that. We also have another good callback. Jin was the first one to fall because he was the furthest one ahead. Remember, in the very first part, Jin won his horse race at the expense of his brothers, and Yi tried to warn him about the cost of that. He wouldn't listen. He pulled ahead of his brothers to get to the fight quicker, and he ended up dying first because of it. So, an ironic callback. And then also, when they're trying to make their escape, Swan stumbles just like when he fell off of his horse. So we're seeing really good callbacks. We're kind of seeing history replay itself, which is very, very well done. Very ironic, very clever how it's done. I did like that, and I thought that was very well handled. It also does a good job of explaining Zhe's actions. You know, Zhe allied himself with the Mongols, but we don't know what exactly he's doing, and now we know, and we see how the Wu Lin feel about it. We see that not all the Wu Lin agree with Zhe, and a lot of them are very much against what he's doing, and now Zhe is hostilely taking over the Wu Lin by killing all who oppose him, which Prince Yi is very quick to point out is not the right way to do anything. Because remember, Prince Yi's whole philosophy is we shouldn't achieve victory at the expense of our allies and comrades. And so he's very sickened by Zhe's actions, which is good. And I also want to say this. Yi himself is a good character and pretty well written. He deserves more depth and exploration to what he is. And here's what I mean by that. We have a character who is meant to be a leader, but struggling to rise into it. And what I like is we don't follow him because he's a winner. In fact, he loses throughout the story. In part 1, he loses the horse race. Yes, it was to help a friend, but he deliberately lost the horse race. And it didn't look like he was going to win because Jin pulled ahead of him. In part 2 and 3, he loses both of his brothers in the combat, and he's forced to retreat with his forces. This isn't a man who suddenly goes, I will rise up against adversity and then fight all of Ji's soldiers single-handedly. He doesn't go up and fight Ji one-on-one and have this really awesome combat. No, he retreats. He's forced to say, hey, we got to get out of here, guys. To quote a line from Zorro in One Piece, it's got a way with words if you can make running away sound brave. You know, very well done in that regard. Yi is a unique character. He's not liked because he's strong. He's strong because he's liked, and I think that's a really clever take. So overall, lots of good stuff to say about this. I think that the way it was done was very well done. I like this lore. It's very good. But that doesn't mean it's perfect. I found a few negatives here too. Let's start with the big one. Yi's motivations are not clear. He's a prince, okay. But what does he want? What does he seek? Does he want to become emperor? That's never stated. Does he just want to defeat the Mongols? Okay, that's never stated. Does he want to rule Heathmore? That's never stated. Does he just want to keep the Wulin alive? Well, okay, but that's never stated. His goals need to be explained a bit better. I think that his goals needed to be explained a little bit better. And the reason I say that is because what did he want to do specifically? So he's gone to war to protect the Wulin from the Mongols. So maybe he just wants to keep the Mongols alive. Not the Mongols, maybe he just wants to keep the Wulin alive. But for what purpose? To what end? I'm just trying to figure out what he wants to do. That's the big thing. I want to know what his motivations are. What is his end goal? Also, I need to say this. Jin and Swan, his brothers, are not given enough exploration. We get cursory understanding of them, such as that Jin is more stern and steadfast, while Swan is more aggressive and confident. And we also know Swan is quick to forgive, while Jin believes in achieving his ends by any means. But we might have needed a tad more on that, and let me give you an explanation of what I mean. If Jin's whole personality is the ends justify the means, then shouldn't the story have had him switch sides to General Zhe? Because General Zhe believes the same thing. The ends always justify the means. So wouldn't it have been interesting if Jin betrayed his brothers and ended up joining General Zhe? You know, I think you could have had it gone both ways. I think that would have been an interesting way to approach it. Not saying it's the one and only way you could do it. I'm saying that could have been something you explored. But the thing is, we needed to explore a bit more about Jin and Swan. And I know you're focusing on one hero skin, not three. Although that'd be cool if you gave us 3 hero skin in one go. That'd be kind of crazy. But I feel like we could have explored them just a little bit more, or at least touched on their own goals or personalities a little bit more than we did. But for what we got, it was okay. I mean, it's not like they didn't give us anything. And we got enough to kind of tell that Swan was the clumsy but very arrogant and passionate one, while Jin was the cold, calculating, and steadfast one. So I'm not going to say it's bad. It just probably needed a bit more of touch-ups. Now for the last thing, and this is the one that I talked about in my stream earlier today. This is the big one. The beginning portion of the story is not sufficient for the goal they want to achieve. See, the first part of the story establishes a theme of brotherhood, standing beside each other and seeking unity rather than personal gain. See, in the horse race, we see something kind of play out. Jin pulls ahead, and then when he wins at the expense of his brothers, Yi starts to call him out, but then Jin challenges him, basically saying, yeah, man, what do you got to say? You got something to say to me? Go ahead, try to reprimand me. Go ahead, do it. And Yi backs down. So it's clear that what they were trying to go for here was this story of, Yi having to become more confident, and maybe Jin having to learn what it means to work in a brotherhood. Maybe what we had here is some kind of, conflict between the brothers. Maybe that plays itself out later, like Jin does something reckless and Yi has to call him out and say, Jin, you need to stop doing this. And Yi finally builds up the courage to tell Jin off, and that could be something that plays out later. They didn't do this. That's not what happened. There was no animosity later. Instead, the theme seems to be about Yi gaining confidence as a commander and knowing how to appeal to others and convince them of his leaderships and intentions. This was sort of hinted at in the first part, where Yi has to learn, I need to learn how to give speeches better. I need to learn how to convince people of my side better. But I don't think they did a good enough job of establishing that. Let me tell you how I would have done it. Pause here. Sorry, Raven here doing my editing. So as I was editing, a thought occurred to me, so I went back to reread the lore to double check, and something popped out at me. And if I'm right about this, then I want to fully apologize, because it's actually a stroke of genius what the writer did here. So hear me out. What if, in the first part of the story, when Jin rushes past Swan, who fell off of his horse and won at the expense of Swan, what if he's actually supposed to be analogous to General Zhe? Think about it. Jin witnessed the fall of his brother. He knew his brother fell, but he wanted to win anyway, so he was willing to win at the expense of his brother. Yi tries to tell him off, tries to tell him what he did was wrong, but can't bring himself to do it. He can't find the words to tell someone he cares about, someone who should be on his side, that what he did was wrong. And he's worried about causing friction between him and Jin. In the same way, Zhe is destroying the Wulin. For his own ambitions, for his own victory, for his own sake, he is destroying the Wulin and letting them all fall by the wayside. And because of it, he's witnessing his own comrades and allies and friends all fall around him. But now he finds the words to say, and he's willing to tell everyone that what Zhe is doing is wrong. No, I don't think it is a perfect connection. I don't think it is 100% flawless, because there are some differences. For example, clearly what's happening here is in the original part, he was trying to talk to Jin. In this part, he's talking to his allies, not Zhe, so there are some discrepancies. But if what I suspect is true, that is a really great connection, and once again, another good ironic callback, which is great. Now, that doesn't mean that it's flawless, like I said, and I still want you to hear my thoughts on how it could also be written, but I did want to say, if that is correct, after a reread, if that is correct, that is a stroke of genius. I wanted to add that. Okay, back to the video. Let me tell you how I would have changed it. It's just a minor change. It's just a minor change, but hear me out. In the horse race, what if Swan and Jin tied? They both cross the finish line at the same time. And the two get off their horses and start arguing with each other about who won. And at first, Yi kind of lets them argue because that's what brothers do. But then they get physical. They start hitting each other or shoving each other. And he runs in and goes, guys, stop. It doesn't matter who won. At the end of the day, we're brothers. So we all win. And they could both laugh at him and go, Yi, what the heck do you mean? What? Yi, that's the dumbest line ever. That's the corniest line ever. What are you saying, bro? And, of course, the animosity's gone after that, and Yi feels embarrassed. And he knows, man, I gotta get better at this kind of stuff. I gotta do better about talking to people. He could be kind of a little awkward. He could be the awkward little brother of the group. The one who tries to bring peace to his two big brothers when they fight, but knowing that he's kind of the shrimp. Then when we see General Zhe show up and he sees the Wulin fighting amongst themselves, it's just like before. It's just like before. He's seeing his brothers, two sides of the Wulin fighting each other needlessly. We shouldn't be fighting. Look at what it's doing to us. But just like before, he doesn't know the words to say. How do you stop this? He can't run between these two brothers and push them apart. How does he appeal to them? How does he appeal to his people? And he watches Jin die and Swan die. And finally, he builds up the courage and he shouts, "This isn't right!" And he rallies his forces and they retreat. And there could even be followers of General Zhe who hear that and start to question Zhe. And Zhe gets mad, saying, "Hey, you follow him? I'll kill you." And so they kind of go, "Oh, okay, we'll stay. But what he's done is he's planted the seed of doubt in their mind. He started to, appeal to them. And now Zhe has to go, okay, this upstart, this random prince from nowhere, we got to be careful about this guy. We got to be really careful about this guy because he was able to appeal to my people, appeal to my men. I don't know how he did that. I should have broken him, but I didn't. I think that would have been a little bit stronger. And maybe that's just me. Maybe y'all think, no, I don't think that. I think the way they did it was fine. And you're free to think that. In fact, I'll say, the way they did it, I think was fine. I think it could have been stronger. I think it could have been made stronger. That's what I'll say about that. But overall, I thought that this lore was pretty good. It was not bad. I thought that it was handled well. I think that the connections that it makes to Romance of the Three Kingdoms is good. I think it's called back to General Zhe and giving him purpose is good. I think overall, the stuff that I saw in this lore was, in a word, good. It's not gonna blow any minds, but I think it is very good. Which, given some of the other hero skins we've gotten over the years, yeah, that's saying a lot. So anyway, that's all I have to say. So what do you guys think about this lore? Do you think it's good? Do you think that it was well handled? Do you think that it was well written? Let me know what you guys think. Would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And as always, I will see you in my next video. Take care.